Hello, ghosties. You're listening to Not My Ghost.
Not my problem. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Jen.
Whether you're a skeptic, a true believer, or somewhere in between, join us for a journey into the unknown.
Because remember, when it comes to the paranormal, it might not be our problem,
But it's certainly someone's problem.
Kelly, are you getting tired of me yet?
Not at all.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Oh, yay.
I do miss my family.
That's fair.
I miss my husband. I miss my kids. I miss my kitty cats. And I miss my puppy.
Oh,
My old man puppy.
yeah, booger nutters.
Yeah.
But you have Ellie
I do have Ellie.
to love up on you.
Yep.
She's gotten quite attached.
I love her.
Yeah.
I like it when we're in the car and she just leans up against me like she's like, let's cuddle while mommy drives.
That is her favorite thing to do.
I love it, love it, love it. So this is our scripted, unscripted banter section
Yes.
of the podcast.
I think it's really become more just unscripted, but I just like saying scripted, unscripted.
Well, I say scripted, unscripted because I already know the question that I'm going to ask.
That's fair. That's the only part that's scripted.
Right.
So go on. What's my question today?
So, besides Harry Potter, do you have a favorite book?
Ooh, that's tough because I have not read very much recently. I feel like as I get older and my ADHD gets worse, reading is really hard for me, but I do listen to audiobooks. The most recent audiobook I listened to was The Butcher and the Wren, which was written by a fellow podcaster, Elena, that is the co-host of Morbid. So go check them out if you aren't already listening to them, which I'm sure you are because they're like one of the top 10 podcasts, like in all of the podcasty sites. So they're awesome. But she wrote a book, The Butcher and the Wren, that is just a psychological thriller about a serial killer and an autopsy technician who's trying to help uncover who the serial killer is. And it's really cool because prior to dedicating her life to being an amazing podcaster, she was an autopsy technician. So it's
that's nice.
Yeah, it's super cool. And there's a sequel coming out in September. So I'm very much looking forward to reading that and, love supporting new artists and fellow podcasters.
I'm going to add it to my, I hope if it's on Audible, because I also have ADHD. And with a bunch of kids, I don't have a lot of time to sit down and read books. When I'm cooking dinner, cleaning the house, I'm always listening to audiobooks.
I'm pretty sure it's on Audible. I think that's where I listen to it.
All right. So that's what I'm going to add that to my list.
Please do, because it's amazing.
So recently, my most recent favorite book is called If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This book, it's about college kids in a theater program, and they are always doing Shakespeare plays, and they get cast in particular roles. Like every time it's like, oh, this is the bad guy, this is the good guy, this is the the kind of the extra, this is the quiet one, this is the loud one. And they start to realize through their life that they are a reflection of the Shakespeare characters that they play. And it's all around a murder mystery.
Oh, I love that.
It's so good. It's one of the best books I've read recently.
I was in theater in high school and we did a Shakespeare shorts where we just picked like several different iconic scenes and did a play with them. And the principal of our school at the time, after we had announced that we were doing Shakespeare shorts, decided for some reason that we were no longer allowed to have anybody die on stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's really hard with Shakespeare.
It was really hard.
There.
So, and the first play I did as a freshman was called Next Victim, Please. And it was a comedy murder mystery where we were all at this old guy's house, and there was all the kids and significant others and all of that. And he dies. And the whole thing is like, it's like Clue, trying to figure out who the murderer was. And literally everybody in the family eventually dies. So we had a lot of deaths on stage in theater. I was electrocuted.
Not real.
Not in real life.
Yeah,
No. My husband in the play went to turn on a lamp that had a short, and then he started to get electrocuted. And I was a trophy wife, was my character's name. And I was, dense and didn't really understand. So I grabbed onto my husband, and then I started getting electrocuted. And then our 3 kids all came out and grabbed onto each one of us. So it was literally 5 of us standing up on the stage, just shaking until we all collapsed on the ground dead.
When you said you were the trophy wife, I was going to say, yes, you are. And then you said, but I was dense. And I said, no, you're not dense.
Yeah. Well, my character was dense. Hold on. Before we get into anything else, we have to talk about what happened last night.
I am so freaked out about what happened last night.
We were watching Destination Fear, which I know we have mentioned on this podcast before. Please go watch it. It's amazing. The first 4 seasons are on, I know they're on Max. You said they're on Discovery
Plus. And then they went to YouTube and changed the name to Project Fear.
Yes. We can start with whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I highly recommend starting with the stuff that's on Max or Discovery Plus. So we were in season 2, what was it, episode 5?
Episode 5.
And at the very, very end, they're literally about to wrap up. And one of the guys was sitting in like the basement dungeon area where
Tanner.
Sorry, I don't know all the people yet. I'm still new. And Tanner was sitting there, and he heard like a brick fall behind him, right? Which had happened earlier in the night.
When Chelsea was down.
And he turns around and looks at it and kind of like, oh, what was that? And then it got quiet for a minute. And then we both, me and Kelly, heard a voice say, Kelly.
I was in my head thinking, what the hell was that? But I thought I was the only one that heard it.
And I immediately stopped and like looked at her, and she looked at me, and I'm like, did you just hear that? And throughout this whole show, every time they get an EVP, Kelly and I, before they tell us what they think it said, we try to see if we can hear what it said.
Right.
Because a lot of times, I think we've mentioned it before with EVPs, you can just hear static, and then someone says, oh, they said get out. And suddenly they play it, and now you hear get out, because that's what our brains do. So I've been trying to like listen whenever they play an EVP to see if I could hear it. And so as soon as I heard it, I was like, did you just hear that? And she's like, did that just say Kelly? And I said, that definitely just said Kelly.
But here's the thing. Also on the show, every time they get any kind of evidence, they replay it, they point it out, they talk about it in some way. This was not acknowledged.
No.
At all. It was at the very end of the episode.
And we rewinded it to make sure that it wasn't coming from something in our apartment.
Right.
So we did that, and we heard it again. And then Kelly brought out her phone and played it on her phone just to make sure that it wasn't just in one spot. And she heard it on her phone. But the other thing is that Kelly has seen all of these episodes before.
I have. I've seen every episode of Destination Fear and Project Fear. I've watched this episode with my family before, with my husband and my youngest daughter. And I have no recollection of this happening at all.
Yeah. So very, very freaky.
And it was loud, too.
It was loud. You could absolutely hear it. There was no question. It wasn't like a staticky EVP. It literally sounded like a man's voice saying, Kelly.
Yeah.
So if you want to go watch it, check it out. Like I said, Destination Fear, Max, Discovery Plus. And it was season 2, episode 5. And it was at the very end of the episode. Obviously, I recommend watching the whole episode because it's great. But if you just want to go check that part out and let us know if you heard it, because we want to make sure we're not crazy.
Yes. And I had to sleep in here last night alone thinking, God, I hope that's really on the recording.
Yeah.
But it has to, because it was on my phone too, but it was weird.
Very weird. So yeah, go listen, message us, post on social media. Let us know if you heard it. So Kelly, do you want to tell everybody about the ghost pub crawl we went on the other night?
Yes. It was one of the most amazing nights I've ever had.
It was so much fun.
It really was. So before I came out here, Jen had sent me a list of things that we could do. And on that list was a haunted pub tour. And I was like, sign us up.
Yes, she was.
So we went. And before this tour even started, we went out to dinner. We had a wonderful dinner.
We did. It was delicious.
And then we walked around St. Augustine for a bit.
Yeah, downtown.
And then we headed over to where we meet everybody for the tour.
Yes.
I bought an awesome pair of ghostly earrings.
They are so adorable.
They really are.
They glow in the dark.
I knocked over a display with a necklace on it.
Yes, she did.
What was the tour company that we went?
City Walks.
City Walks.
Yes.
Great. If you were in St. Augustine and want to take a ghost tour, City Walks is the place to go. And you want to ask to see if your tour guide can be Danny, because Danny was amazing.
Danny was amazing. He was a wonderful tour guide and we loved him. He was fun. He drank with us at all the pubs.
Yep.
And
had a lot of knowledge.
Yes.
A lot of knowledge about a lot of things.
And he was a good storyteller because I've been on a lot of ghost tours. And sometimes you just get people that are just reading memorization of the knowledge. And it just sounds very bland. And I'm sorry, if you're going to be a ghost tour guide, you have to be passionate and you have to be a good storyteller.
Yeah.
And Danny was a great storyteller.
He really was. So if we ever decide to do another tour through City Walks, I'm going to request Danny.
Yes, we absolutely.
I wouldn't mind going on this exact same one.
I would do the same one again too.
Before anything started, when we were just waiting around, there's other people there. I don't know how it got started. Did you say something?
I don't remember, honestly. We think we just started talking. There were 2 bachelorette parties on this tour. And one girl had just like 2 people with her. And then the other girl had, I don't even know, several people with her.
Several.
I don't even remember how many it was, but she had a lot. So it was a pretty big party. And as we were just standing there waiting for everybody to show up, I think we just got to talking. And
I think you and I were talking about the podcast.
yeah.
And I think it was Carly who heard us.
Yes. I think Carly was the first person that heard us.
And asked us about it.
Yeah.
And then got excited about it.
Yes. And then Danny came over, and this is not the tour guide Danny. This is Danny with an I, who was the bride. Mm-hmm. And she came over and started talking, and we told her all about it. And before we even, I think we had gone to the first bar. And we had continued kind of chatting throughout. And after the first bar, we're kind of staying in this alleyway and we're learning about more history and some murders that happened in downtown St. Augustine.
But before that, even before the tour started, when they asked about the podcast, they immediately went and put it into Spotify.
They did.
And to follow the podcast.
Yes. And
immediately.
And Danny said she texted the whole bachelorette party group text they had, the name of the podcast. So everybody in the bachelorette party would follow it.
Yes.
So again, we were chatting with them throughout. And, again, the first bar went through and we kind of just were sitting there. We had a drink. And then as we were waiting to get to the second bar, the next thing I know, my phone vibrates and I look at it and it says, "You have a Patreon supporter." And I'm like, what?
How did we get a Patreon supporter already?
And then I looked and it was Danny. And this woman has not listened to a single episode of our podcast. She just loved us.
Yeah.
And our vibe and our voices and our personalities so much that she went on and became our first patron.
Patron on Patreon.
And yeah, we love her.
You're going to hear about Danny a lot because we're going to call her out a lot.
Yes, she's currently our only patron. So we're just going to talk about her all the time because she's amazing.
Right.
And
even when we have 10,000 patrons, we're still going to talk about our very first fan of the podcast.
She said she wanted to get in on the ground floor, and she wanted to always be able to say that she was the first patron and that she was her first fan.
But here's the awesome part of this whole thing. Besides all the love and support we were getting from this bridal party about the podcast, they completely brought us into their party.
They did.
We were drinking with them. We were hanging out with them.
Yes.
It was amazing.
It was so much fun. Oh, and we have to talk about Chadwick. What happened when we went to the second bar? Okay, so remember
I was drinking.
She was drinking. So I stayed sober because I knew I was driving her home. But we were about to walk into the bar, and Danny, the tour guide, had handed out some EMS detectors, right?
That's right.
So, of course, I pull out my EMS detector from my backpack because, I have a ghost podcast, so I came prepared. And Kelly pulls out her spirit box, which basically just kind of goes through the different radio waves, and it basically can allow spirits to use the different radio waves to put messages through. So right as we're about to open the door, the spirit box says Danny.
Yes, it did.
And we have two Dannys on this tour, our amazing bride and first fan, and Danny, the tour guide. So that was weird to begin with.
Yes, it was.
So then I have up on my phone GhostTube, which is an amazing free app that you can use. It's kind of similar to an Ovulus, which it's got a word bank in it, and the spirits are supposed to kind of be able to pick from the word bank and send words through. But it's an app that you can download on your phone. I've always been kind of hesitant. Like sometimes I get some things that are, make sense, and sometimes I get some things that are just completely off the wall. And we're all standing at the bar, and I get Amanda that comes through, right? So I look up because again, I don't know everybody in our tour group or obviously everybody in the bar. And I say, is there an Amanda here? And one of the bartenders stops and just stares at me and kind of slowly raises her hand. And as soon as she did that, my phone spat out the word mother. And I looked at her and I said, are you a mother? And she had the biggest shocked look on her face that she could ever have. And she kind of stared at me, and then she went about continuing doing what she was doing. And then Danny, the tour guide, leaned over to me because obviously he does this all the time. They go to the same bars and he knows these people. And he said that she has told him multiple times that she feels like her mother, who has passed away, follows her and is always around. So the fact that almost immediately we walk into this bar and it says Amanda and mother back to back. And she actually came over and talked to me a little bit as we were sitting there drinking and said, at work, she goes by Mandy. So no one even calls her Amanda. So when she heard her name, Amanda, it freaked her out. And that she thought it was a strange coincidence, to say the least.
Yeah. Then I have another app on my phone just called Ghost, and I opened it to an EVP part of it. And what it does is it scans through random letters really, really quickly. And the theory is that it can allow a spirit to put those letters together to say a word. So I was talking to one of the other girls in the bachelorette party, and I was telling her something about my fourth child. And I did not say her name. I just said my daughter. And as we were talking, my EVP thing on my app says Emily. And Emily is the name of my fourth child.
Yeah.
That was kind of weird. And then, might have been after we left that one. Remember we were standing out by the cannons?
Yeah, in the little park.
We were talking to Danny.
Which Danny?
Not the tour guide. Danny the bride.
Danny the bride. Our first fan.
I don't remember what we were saying. I look at my phone because I can see a word's going to come up. And right as Danny says the word drunk, the word drunk appears on that EVP app. It's like Danny and the spirit said the same thing
at the same time. Yeah. We We had a lot of weird, just like weird little things like that. We're not saying there was 100% paranormal, but just some coincidences that
they were interesting.
They were very, very interesting. So at the second bar, we had Carly, who was a part of the bachelorette party as well. And she had, experienced some loss in her life. And some things came in on my phone that I had the app going. And she thought they were directed towards her and some of her experiences that she had had. So,
yeah.
And it was funny. She at one point laughed at me at the night and told me, she was like, I'm a scientist. I feel like I shouldn't be believing in this stuff. And I'm like, Carly, if this makes you feel better, who cares if it's true or not? If hearing this type of stuff gives you comfort, then lean into it.
I mean, you can't really argue with that.
No, you can't. So that was our fun ghost pub tour.
It was amazing.
It was so much fun.
And then after the best thing is after the tour was over, like we get to the last place on the tour, our tour guide leaves and we're hanging out with the bachelorette party. And we're thinking maybe it's time to head home when they come over and say they want to go to another bar. Now, Jen has a service animal. And Jen was concerned because she's been to this place before and it's very loud in there and she didn't have ear protection for her service dog. So Jen said, I wouldn't be able to go there because of the noise. So they went and talked and changed where they were going so we could come with them. They found an open but quiet bar that we could all go to.
Yeah. So it was just an amazing group. And I felt like they really took us in for the night.
They did.
And like I said, shout out to Danny, who is getting married in November. And everybody else in her bachelorette party was just amazing and sweet. And we love you all.
All of them were amazing.
They are. Every single last one of them.
Yeah.
And we love you all. And we wish you nothing but the best.
Yeah.
And you're going to hear a lot about Danny because, again, as of right now, she is the only one paying us.
So she's the only one paying us.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, everybody in that bachelorette party for including us and making us feel a part of something bigger. All righty. Now, I guess we can get into what we're talking about today.
Yes.
Huh?
End of scripted, unscripted banter.
All right. So today we are diving into the eerie origins of the Mothman legend.
Ooh, Mothman.
But first, we're going to do some fun and scary facts about West Virginia.
Again.
I know you're thinking, but you already gave us fun and scary facts about West Virginia, but I'm going to give you more because that's what we do here at Not My Ghost, Not My Problem.
Yeah. And West Virginia is a scary place.
Yes.
There's a couple other places we want to talk about. So you're going to get even more fun and scary facts about West Virginia.
I know you guys are excited.
So excited.
Well, I know our one patron is excited.
Yes. Our one patron. Love you, Danny.
Okay. West Virginia is a haven for outdoor enthusiasts. Enthusiast. Okay. Words are difficult sometimes, guys.
Drink your coffee, Kelly.
Offering activities like whitewater rafting on the Gauley River, rock climbing, and hiking in the Monongahela National Forest.
Sounds right.
Right? Sounds right.
Yeah.
Sure. If it's not right, don't come at me.
Yeah.
I don't live there.
You can politely let us know.
Sure.
But just don't be a dick.
Right. The town of Wheeling was once known as Nail City due to its extensive nail manufacturing industry.
Hold on, now I have to ask, nail as in nail and hammer or nail as in like fake acrylic
nail and
nails?
hammer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just had to make sure.
Right. So the state is still known for its glass and pottery production as well.
Cool.
So they have like a lot of like manufacturing and stuff in West Virginia.
I like glass.
So nails.
And
we all
pottery.
need nails.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need glass. West Virginia is home to the annual West Virginia State Fair in Lewisburg, the Appalachian String Band Music Festival, and the Vandalia Gathering, celebrating Appalachian heritage and music.
Love that.
Yeah. I would love to go to that music festival.
Yeah. Who doesn't love a good music festival?
Right. Scary facts about West Virginia.
Ooh, scary.
A ghostly figure known as Jenny is said to haunt the Harper's Ferry area. According to legend, she caught fire in a railway station accident and now appears as a burning apparition screaming in agony.
I've been to Harper's Ferry a lot and I've never seen her.
The locals call her Screaming Jenny.
I've never even heard of her.
Me neither. In the Riverview Cemetery, the statue known as the Crying Woman in Parkersburg is a woman weeping over her child's grave and is said to come to life at night. Visitors report hearing her sobs and seeing the statue move. So if you're listening, guys, and you go to Parkersburg and you're in this cemetery, don't blink. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
Also, there is a spectral black dog known as the Snarly Yow and is said to roam the Appalachian Mountains. Sightings of this creature, often described as a large, ferocious dog with glowing eyes, have been reported for centuries.
I would snuggle the puppy.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care if it's large, glowing, if it looks like it wants to snarl or bite me.
As soon as I see a puppy, I'm like, come here, puppy.
I'm going to go snuggle it.
Come here, puppy.
Well, you puppy. Come here, puppy.
Definitely. So, now we're going to get into Mothman.
Mothman.
Mothman is my youngest daughter's favorite cryptid. She has Mothman plushies and Mothman t-shirts. And I got her a pair of Mothman boxer shorts for Christmas last year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Go, Katie.
Yeah. So picture this.
I'm picturing it.
It's November 1966 in Clenderin, West Virginia. Two grave diggers, busy at work in a local cemetery, suddenly look up to see a black figure soaring above their heads.
Sorry, I have to interrupt. Grave diggers, as in they're actually digging graves for funerals, or they're grave diggers as in they're digging up the graves of bodies to steal.
Grave diggers, not grave robbers. Okay, so I'm assuming they are digging up
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. So they look up and they see a black figure soaring above their heads. Little did they know, this moment would mark the first recorded sighting of what would become known as the infamous Mothman. According to local lore, Mothman is a towering 10-foot figure with black wings and piercing red eyes. Shortly after the initial sighting in Clenderin, residents of Point Pleasant began reporting encounters with the creature while driving at night. Two witnesses say he landed on the roof of their car and his large talon-like claws were digging into the roof of the car as if it was holding on. And then he just flew off into the night over some local farmland.
Were there pictures of the roof of the car?
I could not find pictures of the roof of the car.
Because to me, if a 10-foot moth/humanoid creature landed on your car, he's going to scratch it.
I would think so. But we also have to remember this is 1966.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to pull out my cell phone and take pictures of the car. So
that's fair.
If there were pictures, they just might not be available on the internet.
Everything's available on the internet, Kelly.
Well, you never know. Anything you find on the internet, too, you worry, is this the real picture? Has this been doctored?
Right.
So,
also true.
Newspaper articles from the time frequently mentioned sightings in the TNT area. That is an area where the government was testing the chemicals later used in nuclear weapons. People are speculating that people might have been seeing large birds like cranes or owls, while others theorized a mutation accident involving the chemicals in TNT storage.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I think the government's hiding a lot from us. So it's knowing that there's testing that created a 10-foot Mothman human figure. It's kind of cool. Scary. Terrifying, but also cool.
I wonder if there are hybrid Mothman out there.
There might be.
He's got to mate with somebody.
Right. Or maybe he just lives forever and it's only one.
Poor Mothman.
I know. He's so misunderstood.
Maybe all he's looking for is a life partner.
Right.
Someone to share his life with.
He's all by himself. He just wants a friend.
Yeah. Also, why is it Mothman and not Mothwoman? How do we know the gender of this cryptid?
Well, I'm assuming he's probably flying without clothes. He's probably not wearing clothes.
That's true. That might be a good indicator. Yeah. All right. Well, now we know.
Now we know.
The most infamous encounter occurred on December 15th, 1967. Locals claimed to see Mothman atop or flying over the Silver Bridge, a suspension bridge connecting Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio. Tragically, the bridge collapsed shortly after the sighting, resulting in the deaths of 46 people. An investigation later attributed the disaster to a fracture in a suspension chain. But the legend of Mothman's ominous presence endures. Each year, Mothman makes a notable appearance during the Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant,
which I totally want to go to.
It's on the bucket list. Since the tragic Silver Bridge collapse, there have been alleged sightings of the creature before other disastrous events, including earthquakes, tsunamis, and even the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
Wow. So my question is he causing these things or is he warning people?
Well, that's what it says, is that there is a debate amongst the locals. Is Mothman an omen of doom or a harbinger of warning?
I gotta think he's warning us.
Some believe Mothman brings bad luck or causes these disasters, while others speculate the creature may have the ability to foresee the future, appearing to warn people of impending danger.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that because I think Mothman's cool.
I think probably most people see him as more of a villain, but honestly, he could be both. And in many ways, he is both, says Jason Burns, a West Virginia storyteller. There's no actual proof that he caused the collapse. He could have just been saying, hey, it's going to happen. Look out. I'm on the bridge, pointing out the break.
Yes. Get off of the bridge because this is going to collapse.
Right. Point Pleasant, with a population of 4,146, according to the 2019 census, thrives on Mothman lore. The town features numerous stores and food items themed after the Mothman, available year-round. However, the highlight is the Mothman Festival, the biggest tourism event in the area, which had been on hiatus because of the pandemic. And I believe they're trying to get everything back and going.
Good. I want to go.
I don't remember what I was watching, but I saw some people go to Point Pleasant and they went into this diner and they had a Mothman pizza.
Oh,
and it was I think it had like olives as eyes and just the way they designed the toppings on the pizza.
That's really cool.
It was a Mothman pizza.
Yeah, you got to lean into it. I mean, especially a small town in West Virginia.
Right.
Got to lean into what can make you famous and draw in tourists.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's working.
Yeah.
It's brilliant marketing.
Who doesn't want to go to West Virginia to see Mothman?
Right. If you're not going for the adventure like whitewater rafting and rock climbing and hiking through the Appalachian Trail, if you're not there for that, you're probably there for Mothman.
Mothman or any of the other paranormal, spooky things that go on in West Virginia.
Going back to November of 1966, we know the original sighting was on November 15th, but November 16th, the very next day, there was another terrifying encounter. In a sparsely populated region near Point Pleasant, a few homes could be found, but one belonged to the Ralph Thomas family. On November 16th, they spotted a funny red light in the sky that moved and hovered above the TNT plant. It wasn't an airplane, said Mrs. Marcella Bennett, a friend of the Thomas family, but we couldn't figure out what it was. Mrs. Bennett drove to the Thomas house a few minutes later and got out of the car with her baby. Suddenly, a figure stirred near the automobile. It seemed as though it had been lying down. She later recalled it rose up slowly from the ground, a big gray thing, bigger than a man, with terrible glowing eyes.
Sounds terrifying.
Yes, so terrifying, in fact, that Mrs. Bennett was so scared she dropped her baby.
I mean, it sounds terrifying, but you gotta hold the baby.
Right. Quickly recovering, she picked up her baby and ran to the house. The family locked everyone inside, but hysteria gripped them as the creature shuffled onto the porch and peered into the windows. The police were summoned, but by the time they arrived, the Mothman had vanished. Mrs. Bennett was so traumatized by the incident that she sought medical treatment to deal with her anxieties. She was plagued by frightening dreams and later told investigators that she believed the creature had visited her own home as well. She often heard a wailing sound like a woman screaming near her isolated house on the edge of Point Pleasant. Interestingly, there are interconnected sightings of Mothman, UFO, and encounters with the Men in Black.
Men in Black?
Yes. Many have come to believe that these phenomena are related.
Phenomena.
For nearly a year from the first sighting in November 1966 to the bridge collapse in December 1967, strange happenings continued in the area, attracting researchers, investigators, and monster hunters. Among them, the most famous was author John Keel, who has extensively written about Mothman and other unexplained anomalies. Keel, known for his controversial views, has long dismissed the mainstream UFO movement standard extraterrestrial theories. Keel argues that humans have a long history of interaction with the supernatural. He believes that mysterious strangers have intervened in the lives of historic figures like Thomas Jefferson and Malcolm X, suggesting the presence of the gods of old. According to Keel, these elder gods manifest as UFOs, aliens, monsters, demons, angels, and even ghosts. Despite his controversial stance, Keel remains a respected and colorful figure in the field for his in-depth research. Mothman doesn't just stay in West Virginia, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where else is he known to be?
He was seen in Ohio in 1974, twice in PA in 1981, and 3 more times in West Virginia in 1994. There was a several-year gap then without sightings. Mm-hmm. That changed November 21st, 2016, when a man driving along State Route 2 claimed to see something jump from tree to tree. He quickly pulled over and snapped some pictures. While the man declined an on-camera interview, he was adamant that the photos were not doctored. Interestingly, he had recently moved to Point Pleasant for work and was unaware of the Mothman legend, or so he says. In these photos, this creature appears to have wings with pointed tips, long legs bent at an awkward angle. Ooh. Point Pleasant local Carolyn Harris believes these pictures could be real, given numerous sightings over the years. I definitely know the Mothman is real, says Harris, who has owned the Mothman Diner for 48 years and helped start the Mothman Festival. She's heard enough firsthand accounts from first responders and the sheriff's department to be convinced of Mothman's existence.
Okay.
This might have been the diner that I saw those people go to that had the Mothman pizza, although I'm not positive. Harris's Diner often attracts Mothman enthusiasts. One day, Karen and Ralph Smith, traveling from Florida to Pennsylvania, stopped by the diner and visited the Mothman Museum. Karen said she hopes to become a believer, saying, "You have eyewitnesses. It does have the potential to be real, and I want to believe." To get an expert opinion, Eyewitness News asked Jeff Wainsley, owner of the Mothman Museum. Wainsley noted that with modern technology, it's almost impossible to confirm the authenticity of the photos. Regardless of the picture's authenticity, the legend of Mothman continues to bring significant benefits to Point Pleasant. It's a good thing. It brings a lot of people to the area. He's here to stay, says Harris. The most recent sightings of Mothman were in Chicago in the late 2010s, where he was spotted a whopping 87 times.
So you said late 2010. So right before, I don't know, a global pandemic.
Right.
So maybe he was trying to warn everybody that there was a global pandemic that was about to happen.
Yeah. I mean, 87 times is a lot of times.
That is a lot of times to be spotted.
And global pandemic is big.
It was a pretty big deal.
Is global pandemic redundant? Because doesn't a pandemic mean that it has spread globally?
That I do not know. I'm not sure. I've heard people say global pandemic a lot, though. So,
okay.
I just stick with it. Moving into like an area that is more populated, like a big city. Maybe he was like just picked some place that he could go, that he could be sighted more, hoping to warn us of what was coming.
Right. There are people that have done some research that found that they, in that area of West Virginia, not just with the chemicals, they were also testing military equipment. And a lot of people think that that might be what some of the sightings of like UFOs were. Also, some people think the military was testing things like jetpacks.
Yeah.
And that may have given the appearance of a tall flying creature in the area.
That's fair. Yeah. But there's also a lot of big birds in that area as well. I know it is a city and you probably don't expect to see large birds flying.
It's West Virginia. It's mountainous.
Well, I'm talking about Chicago.
Oh, Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I know I watched an episode of Expedition Fear, but they had an episode on Mothman. And I think they kind of attributed most of it to large birds that do live in like the surrounding areas that can sometimes come into the city. And if you're in the city, you're not expecting to see this like super large bird just flying around the buildings.
Right.
So that might end up being like, I saw Mothman. Especially after one person reports it, then everyone's on like high alert, like, I want to see a Mothman.
Right. So it's hard to say.
Yeah. But it's very interesting. It's definitely a cryptid that we've all kind of heard about. And I think most people know it more famously for the bridge collapse, which obviously was just devastating that could happen. But again, if he is real, I think he's a warning. I don't think he's a bad omen.
The only thing that gets me is when he landed on the roof of that car and those people were terrified.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of a warning that would necessarily.
Maybe if they didn't slow down because a large moth-like creature landed on the top of their car, maybe they would have been in an accident.
Maybe. That's possible.
So maybe he was stopping them from getting into a car accident of some sort.
It's hard to know. It's hard to know what the intentions of Mothman.
It is. Or on the other hand, he could just be a super evil creature that just wants to scare everybody and is out there causing all these bad things. Maybe he somehow flew all the way to China and started COVID.
Oh my gosh. Maybe he did.
Maybe.
I wonder if there's been any sightings of Mothman around where it all started.
I wonder.
That's a good thing to look into.
Yeah, we'll have to check into it. Has anyone in China seen a large moth humanoid figure flying through the air?
I'm wondering, like, so if you're in Chicago and you see this large flying thing, I don't know that my first thought would be, oh, that's Mothman, because I really associated Mothman just with West Virginia.
Yeah. I think probably what happened is someone saw it who probably just knew of Mothman and associated with it and then reported it. And then once it was reported, anybody that saw anything unusual in the sky was like, Mothman! I feel
That's
like
possible.
Yeah, I feel like that's gotta be it.
If any of our listeners have experienced anything with Mothman, let us know.
Yeah, please.
I was looking for some stories of personal encounters on Reddit, but apparently there is a video game with Mothman, and it's almost impossible to figure out if people are talking about an actual Mothman sighting.
Yeah.
Or they're talking about the video game.
Yes.
Because one story I was like, this is amazing. And then the guy was like, I was level 41 at the time. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? So I had to look it up. And it's like, oh, they're playing a video game. I don't want a video game. I need real Mothman stories.
Yes.
So if you have them, you need to write in.
Please do. Or, I mean, well, any paranormal stories. But I think we haven't done one yet because we don't have enough stories, but we plan in the future to do episodes called Paranormal Postcards, where we read your listener stories aloud. Now, I know we've read some in episodes that, we specifically have gotten, or if you write in with something, then we end up doing an episode on it. We'll probably feature it in that episode, but we also just want to have whole episodes dedicated to just your stories. So cryptids, that would be a fun theme to do one time.
It would be
on our Paranormal Postcards episode. So if you've ever had any interactions with cryptids, write in. And when you email us at notmyghostpodcast@gmail.com, just write in the title. You can put Paranormal Postcard and then just some type of title that lets us know what your tale is about so we can help organize it and make sure your story doesn't get lost in our 3 emails.
Yeah, because 3 emails is a lot to handle.
It's a lot to keep track of, Kelly.
I know.
But we're going to get more.
We're going to get more. We're definitely going to get more.
Yes. Everyone is going to love us, and they're going to start writing in all their paranormal stories. And then we're really going to need that name in the title so we know what your story is about.
Who wouldn't love us?
I know.
We're wonderful.
Yeah, we really are.
So the more stories that we get in when we do the episodes of Paranormal Podcast, if you don't hear it, or Paranormal Podcast, Paranormal Postcards, if you don't hear your story right away, it's probably because we've got like 4 or 5 emails now.
Yeah.
And we're just waiting to get them in to fit into an episode.
We do have a couple that we haven't read yet that I'm saving for our first Paranormal Postcards. So write us more so we can do one of those episodes.
And maybe when you share with us your experiences with the paranormal, if it fits, we may share one of our experiences, or particularly one of my experiences from the house I lived in for 15 years.
Yeah, exactly. We love good haunted houses.
Right. So that brings us to the end of this episode about the Mothman.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Good Mothman. If you loved what you heard, please take a moment and rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. Your support really, really does help us, especially with us being a brand new podcast. The more ratings and reviews and follows, subscriptions, everything that we get, the more we're going to be able to do this for you guys, and the better it's going to get. So that's really important. And tell your friends, if you listen and you like us, please tell your friends to listen and like us, because that's how we're going to get big and be able to continue to bring you all these wonderful spooky tales.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Not My Ghost Podcast and on Facebook at Not My Ghost, Not My Problem. We post updates, photos, and more.
And since we have been together the last several days, we have posted a lot of pictures of just our shenanigans and out having fun. There's even more we haven't posted yet.
Yep.
But we also got a little ghosty plushie that we have. And she comes out and hangs out with us all the time. And we post some fun pictures of our ghosty having a good time. Was drinking a margarita the other day at our pool party. So,
yeah, she liked those margaritas.
She did love those margaritas and the ribs.
The ribs are really good.
They were.
That margarita, though, was like bigger than she was.
Oh, it was. It was. But she enjoyed it.
Yeah.
She did. And if you want even more ghostly content, please consider joining our Patreon. We have some fantastic exclusive perks for our supporters. For our supporter.
Hi, Danny.
Hi, Danny. And as soon as we get more, we'll even up the ante for the what we can offer you guys. But right now with one supporter, we're doing our best. But as we get more, we'll add even more exclusive perks. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Check us out. And then just another reminder, because we really want to throw this in there a lot. If you have had a spine-tingling paranormal encounter, please email us at notmyghostpodcast@gmail.com. And you will probably hear your story featured on a future episode. Also, just a note, when you email us, just let us know if we can use your name or not. If you don't want your name used and you want it anonymous, please just say that and we won't use your name. If you don't say that, then we're going to say your name because we want everyone to know that it was you.
Right. Thank you for joining us on this creepy exploration of the legend of Mothman. Remember, as you look up to the skies, keep this in mind.
If it's not your cryptid,
it's not your problem.
Until next time, stay spooky
and stay skeptical.